Hi, we're going to be looking now and focusing on pregnancy and the birth of the baby. The mother generally feels very tired and often very cumbersome because this baby is growing inside her as her pregnancy tends to progress. And she will find that she needs a lot of rest, she needs to eat very healthily, and she needs to go for checkups where the doctor will perform an ultrascan and be able to pick up any problems with the pregnancy or be able to measure precisely how large that fetus is and give her a very clear date as to when that baby is expected. You'll find that pregnant women very often want to read magazines or get together with other pregnant ladies in order to find out what that birth process is going to be like. And that's a very important social aspect of being pregnant, is the idea of the women who've had babies already passing on this information to women who have not had children, explaining how this process is going to take place, because it's a very painful process and it's a process that can be very stressful. And for the woman to actually enjoy giving birth to her baby that she's waited for 9 months or 40 weeks for, she needs to be in a very positive frame of mind. The baby ends up at the end of the full-term pregnancy with its head downwards in the cervix. Very often what starts to happen to trigger birth is that the placenta begins to break down. It's done its job, it now starts to disintegrate. It is no longer needed, and this will trigger different things happening inside the body of the mother. A very important hormone that we haven't spoken about up to this point is oxytocin. And oxytocin will be produced, which stimulates that very thick muscular wall of the uterus to begin contracting. Not only does it contract and push the baby downwards, but it also takes the cervix and it pulls it open and slightly upwards. And so the cervix, which normally would have been just a few millimeters in diameter, needs to open up to be able to be approximately 15 centimeters across to allow for the passage of the head of the baby. And this process is very painful, this opening up of the cervix, and it's accomplished by the contractions, rhythmical contractions of the uterus. These contractions will get to a certain point where the amniotic fluid and membranes that surround the baby will burst open and the waters are said to have broken. What this means is the amniotic fluid that has surrounded the baby, cushioning the baby and acting as a shock absorber and a protective covering around the baby, these burst. And the woman then knows that birth is imminent. It's going to happen very shortly. With this buoyancy gone, the baby's head really engages into the cervix. The muscular contractions now pick up in intensity, the cervix opens, and the head of the baby must move around from being in an upward position in the cervix around to the birth canal, which faces forward, and that is exceptionally painful. That is the part of birth called transition, and that is the part that is very, very painful for the mother to be. Once the baby's head has passed out of the cervix, there are a couple more contractions and the rest of the baby passes through the birth canal and the baby is born. That is part 2 of birth. The final part of the birth is the delivery of the placenta and any other tissue that has been inside the body of the woman. Then, of course, because we are humans, we enter into a period of extended parental care with that baby, which generally starts with the mother breastfeeding the baby, and she will produce milk in her mammary glands. All mammals do this. And the sucking reflex of the baby straight after it's born starts to stimulate milk production, and the mother then bonds with the baby and feeds it with the milk from her own body. Of course, there comes a time when the baby no longer relies heavily on this milk and can move over to receiving solid food. We say that at this stage, the baby is weaned and it can now cope with solid food. And of course, father can help and other people in the family can help with feeding the baby. The period of parental care is an extended one in humans, as we have discussed previously. Often a question that arises with pregnancy and babies is, where do twins come from? Well, we get two kinds of twins, non-identical twins. There were two separate eggs that were fertilized by two separate sperm cells, and so these babies might develop in the uterus at the same time, but they're non-identical. In the case of identical twins, remember we spoke about the morula, or that little mulberry batch of cells that's together. If that morula splits into two, then we will have identical twins as a result. One egg cell, one sperm cell, identical DNA and nuclear material, but at the morula stage, two little babies are formed, or two fetuses are formed, and that is how twins are produced. I hope you join me again next week when we continue looking at this topic of human reproduction. Until next week then, enjoy your life sciences lessons in your class. Bye-bye.